Have you ever looked at a zebra and wondered why nobody rides one? At first, the answer seems obvious. Zebras have 4 legs, powerful muscles, incredible speed, and they belong to the same family as horses. If horses carried people across continents, why couldn't their striped cousins do the same? People have asked that question for centuries. Some even tried to answer it. Old photographs from the early 20th century show zebras pulling carriages or wearing saddles. For a moment, it almost seems as if history simply chose the wrong animal. But those images hide a much stranger story. Because if riding zebras were only difficult, someone would have solved it by now. Humans crossed oceans, climbed mountains, and eventually reached space. Training one animal should not have been impossible. Yet after thousands of years, horses helped build civilizations. Zebras never did. That difference has almost nothing to do with stripes, and almost everything to do with a decision neither humans nor zebras ever consciously made. Picture yourself standing on the African savanna just after sunrise. A herd of zebras grazes quietly across the open grass. Foals stay close to their mothers while adults lower their heads to feed. Everything feels peaceful. Then one zebra suddenly freezes. Its ears turn. Its head rises. No lion appears. No roar echoes across the plain. Only the wind moves through the grass. A heartbeat later, the entire herd explodes into motion. Hundreds of hooves pound the earth. Dust fills the air as black and white stripes blur together and disappear beyond the horizon. The danger may have been real, or there may have been no danger at all. To the zebras, that difference barely matters. On the savanna, reacting too early wastes energy. Reacting too late ends your bloodline. Now imagine the same moment through different eyes. You are a hunter, thousands of years ago. After days without enough food, you finally find a herd within reach. Every careful step brings you closer. Then one zebra notices you. Not because you made a loud sound. Not because you ran. Simply because something feels different. Within seconds, the entire herd is gone. That lesson repeated itself for countless generations. Long before scientists studied animal behavior, people already understood one simple truth. Zebras noticed everything. At first, that does not sound unusual. Wild horses also flee from danger. So do deer, antelope, and almost every prey animal on Earth. If they all run, why did one eventually carry kings while the other never carried anyone? Because humans did not need the fastest animal. They needed one that could stop running. Researchers studying zebra herds today see animals shaped by relentless pressure from lions, hyenas, crocodiles, and African wild dogs. In that world, survival depends on assuming the unknown is dangerous. It is a brilliant strategy. But the instinct that protects a zebra in the wild becomes a barrier the moment another species asks for trust. That is why the few successful attempts to train zebras never changed history. Individual animals could sometimes learn, but no society built farms, trade routes, or cavalry around them. For a long time, people believed zebras were simply too aggressive. That explanation feels satisfying. It is also incomplete. Because aggression explains why one ride might fail. It does not explain why an entire species never followed the same path as the horse. Somewhere, a much larger piece of the puzzle is still missing. The easiest mistake is to imagine that early humans simply found a horse, climbed onto its back, and changed history. That is not how domestication begins. The first horses were just as wild as any zebra. They were fast, powerful, and built to escape. If you approached too quickly, they vanished long before you came close enough to touch them. So, why did the story continue with horses but stop with zebras? For generations, people searched for one perfect explanation. Strength was not enough. Intelligence was not enough. Even temperament alone could not explain it. The answer begins with something invisible: the way a species lives together. Wild horses form stable family groups. Young horses spend years watching older ones, learning when to move, when to stop, and, most importantly, who to follow. Leadership depends less on force than on recognition. One horse reacts, and the rest often respond together. Those social instincts evolved long before humans arrived. Now picture the young hunter again. His people no longer spend every day chasing food across endless grasslands. They remain in one place longer. Instead of hunting every horse they see, they begin watching them. A foal keeps its distance. The same people return each day. No attack comes. The same voices. The same routines. Little by little, fear becomes predictable instead of constant. Trust is not won in a single moment. It grows through repetition. That difference separates taming from domestication. A zebra raised from birth may learn to tolerate one person. The same is true for wolves, bears, or even big cats. But a tame individual is not the same as a domesticated species. Domestication happens over many generations. Humans repeatedly bred the animals that stayed calmer, reproduced successfully, and accepted life alongside people. Over centuries, those tiny advantages accumulated until cooperation became part of the population itself. One famous experiment revealed just how powerful that process can be. Researchers in Russia selectively bred only the calmest foxes generation after generation. Eventually, the foxes became friendlier, but they also developed unexpected physical changes, including floppy ears, curled tails, and different coat colors. Behavior changed first. Appearance followed later. The experiment showed that evolution can reshape temperament, but only if the species already possesses the right foundation. That is where zebras face a different reality. For millions of years, their world rewarded immediate suspicion. Lions hunted in groups. Crocodiles waited beneath river crossings. Wild dogs chased prey until exhaustion. In that environment, hesitation could be fatal. The safest response was simple: assume the unknown is dangerous. That instinct helped zebras survive. It also left little room for the slow, predictable trust that domestication requires. Now compare that with ancient Eurasian grasslands. Wild horses still faced predators. But their social structure already depended on following leaders and maintaining stable groups. Humans did not create those behaviors. They stepped into a system that already existed. That changes everything. People often imagine that humans conquered horses through determination alone. The evidence suggests something more surprising. Humans supplied patience. Horses supplied the traits that made cooperation possible. Without both pieces, history would have unfolded very differently. And once you realize that, another question begins to emerge. If horses were one of the rare exceptions, how many other powerful animals came close, yet never crossed the invisible line between surviving beside humans and living with them? The answer is far fewer than most people imagine. For thousands of years, humans lived alongside enormous mammals. Bison thundered across open plains. Moose wandered northern forests. Antelope filled African grasslands. Wild buffalo, elk, and countless other animals were strong enough to carry weight or pull heavy loads. Almost none of them became long-term partners. That pattern is too consistent to ignore. In his book Guns, Germs, and Steel, Jared Diamond argued that only a surprisingly small number of large mammals possess the combination of traits needed for domestication. Historians still debate parts of his broader theory, but on this point, there is widespread agreement. Most large animals never crossed that invisible boundary. The horse was never the rule, it was the exception. Think about how different history might have been if horses had been just a little more suspicious. If they had refused to breed near humans, if every unfamiliar sound had triggered blind panic, trade would have moved more slowly. Messages would have taken weeks instead of days. Armies would have marched instead of riding. Entire civilizations might have expanded at a completely different pace. Sometimes history changes because of an invention. Sometimes it changes because evolution quietly made one possible. Now return to the zebra. Nothing about it is broken. Nothing about it is flawed. A zebra does exactly what millions of years shaped it to do. It detects danger before danger becomes obvious. It reacts without hesitation. It survives by treating uncertainty as a threat. Those are extraordinary abilities. They simply are not the abilities humans needed. For generations, people told this story as though humans selected the perfect animal. The evidence points somewhere else. Humans were choosing from an incredibly short list. Long before the first saddle was built, evolution had already eliminated most species from consideration. People could patiently breed calmer animals over generations, but they could never begin with just any animal. The possibilities had already been decided. That is the hidden answer behind the zebra. Civilization was never built because humans could dominate every creature on Earth. It grew because a handful of species already possessed the rare biological foundation for cooperation. The horse happened to be one of them. The zebra did not. And once you see that pattern, the stripes almost stop mattering. You are no longer comparing two animals that look alike. You are comparing two evolutionary histories that solved completely different problems. One survived by accepting stable relationships. The other survived by trusting nothing for too long. Neither strategy was better. Each was perfectly adapted to its own world. So the next time someone asks why humans never ride zebras, the answer is not that zebras are too wild or too stubborn. Those are only the visible symptoms. The real answer lies in millions of years of invisible evolution. Civilization itself may have depended on traits no one could see. And that raises a much bigger question. How many ordinary parts of modern life exist today? Not because humans were destined to create them, but because evolution quietly made them possible long before history even began. If this video changed the way you see one of the world's most familiar animals, subscribe for more hidden stories behind everyday life. Because sometimes the biggest discoveries are not about what humans invented. They are about what nature decided long before we arrived. And the next question may be even more surprising.